yeah, welcome to another live episode of Game Time here on the Outlaw Nation channel. I am your host, John the Outlaw Rocha. It is May the 4th, so I'm wearing my Vader shirt all day today. If you don't like it, suck it. We're going to start right there from that place. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to enjoy myself today because we got a couple of hours to talk about so many things that we got going on in the world of sports. And, of course, the crew is back together again. Got ourselves Mr. Jay Washington. How are you, Jay?
I'm here, man. I mean, you just aggressive with that. If people don't like your damn Vader shirt, you can suck it. Like, oh, sir, calm down. Star Wars Day.
Once I think it's my apologies. I apologize to anybody who might be offended by that. And of course, to kind of smooth out our sharp edges, we got the smooth one over there. That's the swaggy blurred Winston Marshall. How are you, bro?
Unlimited power.
Look at that.
It's not really Star Wars, but you know, I'm gonna make it work. I mean, he owns it all, right? I bet you Powerline was a Sith Lord. I put some money on that.
Please, you better stay.
I mean, there's so much we're going to get into today, so much we're going to cover and talk about and like kind of, go through. But we got to start sadly in a tough place. This breaking news that happened this morning with Don Shula passing away. He was, of course, the former coach of the Miami Dolphins, led them to 2 Super Bowl victories, led them to 5 Super Bowls total. Pretty incredible stuff. Sometimes people forget that. And also was part of the mix for the Baltimore Colts back when they went to the Super Bowl against the New York Jets. So certainly a man he is the most winningest coach in the NFL, certainly a man who deserves a lot of respect and admiration for what he was able to do in the league. Not always an easy thing to do, to kind of leave a strong legacy as a coach, but also just to top it all off, the cherry on top of the cake is he was the only coach to lead an NFL team to an undefeated season. That means winning all your regular season games, winning all the playoffs, and then winning the Super Bowl itself. No other coach has been able to do that. We go all the way back to the 1900s to now. No coach has ever been able to do that. So that is a hell of a cherry on top of a cake for quite a career. Jay Washington, what's your thoughts on Don Shula there, man?
Legendary, like you said, first and foremost. And the only other coach they thought was going to catch it was Belichick with that one season the Patriots had. They thought they were going to catch it, and then those dreams were all dashed by one Eli Manning. Right. So all those dreams were dashed. But it is very sad. You hear of Don Shula, and then you hear of the legend with him being synonymous with Miami, with being synonymous with the Dolphins. Yeah. And not to forget, look, if you're a foodie like myself who loves all the food shows, they always go to Shula Steakhouse. It never fails. And they always talk about it. So it's just a thing. But it is sad to hear. It's one of those things where you hear certain people have passed on, and it's very sad, but also you cannot be sad that they passed after living a long, fruitful, and productive life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's one of the things we always have to remember. This wasn't a short, unexpected, ill-timely one, if you will. He's lived a fruitful life. He leaves a long-lasting legacy for many people. Again, especially when it comes to the league, that's the thing to chase. Like the Bulls' 72-10 used to be the thing to chase.
Yeah.
The undefeated complete season is a thing to chase for NFL teams, and that would not be possible without Don Shula.
Yeah, for sure. Winston, what are your thoughts on Don Shula? Being a little bit younger than both of us, you coming in a little bit later, maybe the tail end of Shula's career. What are your thoughts on him?
I mean, to that point, I know the name and I know a lot. I know what he's done because,
okay.
You do your research.
Do you have your sound up? Because if you say you're echoing.
Okay, hold on. Yeah. Did that fix it?
No, yeah, you're good now.
Okay. So I mean, you do your research, so you know. But I didn't really get to see him all that much of the stuff that he does, and I think to echo what Jay said.
Oh, we keep losing Winston.
Okay, I thought it was me.
Yeah, we keep losing. You keep freezing. So I just want to make sure you're okay there.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
What are you running on your computers in the background? What you got going?
Nothing. I was watching Flavor of Love, Charm School, so maybe.
Oh, God help us all. God help us all.
Maybe.
That's a virus. What is a virus, sir?
That
is God telling you to stop.
I don't know.
That's the Lord telling you to stop.
I mean, it's one of those situations that I am glad to find. Like, I don't wish death on anybody, but I'm glad to have finally heard of a death from someone that lived a long, fruitful life. This wasn't like a crazy, painful battle. This wasn't all of a sudden. he wasn't taken too early. Like, he lived till he was 90. So, like, him dying at all is sad, but you get to around 90, every day is.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. When Winston comes back on, we'll hear more from him. Absolutely. But yes, every day above ground is a good day. Go ahead, Winston. You want to finish the point? Was that what you were trying to say?
That was pretty much it. I mean, okay. The simple fact that you've lived as many centuries as you have, like I every Monday I see you, I'm always just like, thank you, Jesus. You know, so
you know what? Keep them coming.
Hey, it's coming. Hold on a second.
All right,
I'm just gonna get some headphones.
Okay, we've got ourselves a little bit of drilling going on behind me in the alley, so I apologize to you all if you hear a little bit if that annoys any of you all. I had no idea that we're going to be drilling in the alley this week, so they're tearing it all up.
Because if it's not one of us, it's always rotating around where it's my internet, it's Winston's internet. Now you got the drilling. It's just this is a great show. This, ladies and gentlemen, you get what you pay for.
People, son.
I'm doing the best I can. With the show. You know, we're all subject to whatever the internet connection says. Also, listen, you all give it a like. Give the show a like already. If you're watching right now, we're only at 26 likes, but over 60 of you already starting us off. Hopefully get close to 200 y'all watch before we wrap up the show. But give it a like as soon as you jump on in and enjoy the show. But yes, Don Shula, fantastic career. Certainly him and Dan Marino, so many great quarterbacks that he coached, from Johnny Unitas to Earl Morrall. You can jump into the Dolphins with coaching Larry Zonka, the running back there, coaching Dan Marino, as I said before. Just such a great legacy of coaching from him, and so many people were influenced by him. So many coaches were influenced by what Don Shula did and is a criminally underappreciated coach. You know, people talk about Bill Walsh, they talk about Belichick, they talk about so many great coaches, Chuck Noll. They rarely mention Don Shula in the same breath as those guys. And this is the most winningest NFL coach ever in regular season and playoffs. And of course, he took his team 6 Super Bowls, only winning 2 of them, but still took him to that promised land a few times, and especially with Miami, the heyday of Miami. People don't even talk about the heyday of Miami during the 70s and early 80s, like in the same breath that they speak about the 49ers or the Cowboys or the Steelers.
You just said it. You just said why. You just said the 70s and the 80s. Mm-hmm. We're looking at a new generation, two new generations, quite honestly, that have football in front of them. And the earliest for them will be the 90s.
Right.
So you will get that Cowboys run. You'll get the tail end of the 49ers. You might even get some who reference back to the Bills and whatnot. But it's at the further back in history you study, then you'll go to that Dolphins. So I think it's not for being intentionally forgotten. You know what I'm saying? It's just that the generations in which we're in. Again, Rocha, you were there when they laid the first turf. You were there when they stitched the first ball.
The artificial turf, sure. I was there for the artificial turf.
Wait, did you not know that Rocha actually made the rules of football? It was like him and like 11 of his buddies just like sitting around making shit up. Like,
the Forrest Gump of the year of the football season.
If anything, Don Shula was John's ball boy when he was playing.
He was, and I still look better than him at 90 than he. I mean, now than he does at 90, or he did at 90.
Of course, you look better than now. He's dead. I mean.
To be fair. But anyway, all joking aside, just a fantastic coach, and it's sad to see him go. But 90 is a good long life. Honestly, I'm good at 70, 75. If I get to 90, I'm just playing with house money at that point. So pretty incredible stuff to see him live that long. Of course, the estimation for him came back around. People were doing, certainly, and like you said, his businesses were thriving. He's a name that is well known in Miami, well beloved in Miami. And even Jimmy Johnson had a hard time following in the heels and the footsteps of Jimmy Johnson. Of Don Shula. So Shula definitely leave an incredible legacy for so many of us, having coached so many decades of NFL football. All right, let's move on to our next story. That's the big story, the one everyone's been already in the chat wanting to talk about, and that is wait. Is Cowboys backup center better than the Bears starter? Or isn't that one? We'll get to that one in just a little bit. But what we're going to be talking about first is the last and one more comment here from Randy Constance, who's obviously a Dolphins fan. He says, "We shall rise again with Tua at quarterback. R.I.P. Coach Shula." There you go, Randy. Good words there for Coach Shula, certainly for sure. We shall see what happens there. Let's see. Pierre says Rocha was there when soccer and football was still the same thing. That's true. Very, very true. Very, very true. Can't deny that. Also, 4th round Rocha Day. That's right. I like that. I respect that comment because this marked May the 4th today. But let's jump into what we're really going to talk about today. And that is
I'll start texting you on every 4th of the month. I'll be like, wake up, wake up, wake up. It's the 4th of the month. You got drafted in the 4th. Just like making up shit.
Wow.
That's so petty. That is so petty. You can look at his face. Wait, look at Rocha's face when you did it. He had that there. Ooh.
Yo, bro.
Yeah.
Yo, I totally bet, Jay, I bet you that his favorite day of the draft was day 3 because that's the 4th round starts.
Yeah, you go get
that chip off your shoulder. You go get that chip off your shoulder. Wow. I believe in you. I believe in you.
If you had over and under 11 minutes for the first Bone Thugs and Harmony reference on the show, you win. You win, absolutely. Respect to both of you guys. Respect to both of you guys. Well, let's jump into it. Speaking of Bone Thugs and Harmony, that could have been the name of the Chicago Bulls for the whole 97-98 season. We had episodes 5 and 6 that dropped last night on ESPN. So much fun to watch them. Listen, I was tired as hell yesterday. I drove my girlfriend an hour to a friend's place so she could go take care of her sister's dogs in San Diego and drove all the way back. And I still made myself stay up to watch this thing instead of passing out. And it was so much fun. There was so much to cover here, and it was definitely worth it. Certainly the Kobe Bryant stuff. Certainly hearing more about the Clyde Drexler situation, the gambling situation, the stuff he holds on to and creates, the Isaiah Thomas Dream Team stuff, seeing him go, seeing the live footage of Michael Jordan talking shit on Magic Johnson. Like, it was incredible what we were treated to last night. Of course, the Tony Kukoc stuff as well. So much to cover. Jay, tell me your feelings. What really stood out for you as a Chicago Bulls fan watching these 2 episodes?
First and foremost, Michael Jordan is the king of petty. Like, he is petty personified.
Yeah,
if he don't fuck with you, if he don't like you, he gonna let you know. He's the reason Isaiah Thomas was never on the Dream Team.
He's one of the reasons.
Isaiah had a point. Isaiah has a point when he says, I fit the criteria, which he did.
No, I get that, but Jordan made a solid point, too, where he was like, let's be real. Did I probably have a major factor in it? Of course, but don't put this all on me. It wasn't. I'm not putting it all on Jordan. No. The fact that Jordan goes, Magic had a problem with his ass when they played.
Everybody
hated this nigga. So don't just put this all on me, though. Yes, I was like,
it's because Jordan, of course, is the easiest person to put that on. Mm-hmm. There's this thing goes, everybody loves Showtime. Ain't nobody gonna come at Magic Johnson like that. You know what I'm saying? And right. Larry Bird is Larry Bird. But when you have that, also, when I talk about Jordan's pettiness, how he shut down and embarrassed Dan Marley just because he was Jerry Krause's boy.
Yeah.
Do you understand how petty that is?
Yeah.
No, he was like, don't let nobody else stick me but him because that's Krause's boy.
But
also,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Go. Finish your thought.
Clyde Drexler was terrified of Mike.
Yeah.
Danny
Ainge said that. He said, I knew we were in trouble when all the press started talking about Clyde Drexler and they were comparing him to Jordan and saying he was just as good as Jordan. He goes, I knew I was in trouble. I knew the Blazers were in trouble because Danny Ainge played for the Blazers for that team, that finals team. And he said, and that's when Jordan came out and scored 35 points in the first half of a game. He was 6 for 17 the entire season, and he shot 6 threes in one half that night because he was motivated to destroy. I mean, you can call him petty, Jay, but to back the pettiness up with incredible performances, that's the rarity in sports.
It's that if you underestimate me, I'm going to show you who I truly am. And then the number one thing that was the most Chicago shit you could ever see on a documentary was Mike pitching quarters in the locker room with Bob from Accounting. Now,
are you just going to take all of the points? You just not going to let a nigga say a single thing? You just going to say, this is part, and this 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 part.
All right. Don't get mad at me.
Go ahead, Winston. Go ahead. Don't cut him off, Jay. Go ahead, Winston. Get your points out.
Look, I'm just saying, like, clearly the 2 best parts of this whole thing, we'll call it 3 best parts. Number 3, Kukoc. That was fucked. Like, my dude was trying to come out here and do it for Europe and his whole country is war torn, and he didn't even do nothing. He just he was like, I was making more money in Croatia than I was going to the NBA, but like I was excited for this opportunity to get my family out of this trouble. And Pippen and Jordan said, "Sorry, nigga," and just fucking yanked him all throughout the Olympics. And so, like, where I give him credit is the fact that he was like, I mean, I don't know what I did to deserve this, but I wasn't going to take it like no bitch. And he came back in the gold medal game and actually put up a show where Jordan goes, "Yo, I respected him after that because you know, we like hit him in the mouth and like he came back."
You know why? Because he survived a war-torn country. For God's sakes, what did you care what Jordan and Pippen are going to do to him?
I mean, this was like Kukoc's face. That first game was like, I didn't do nothing.
Yeah, right. And he said, "Oh, you're going to shoot bullets at me? I've had bullets shot at me before. Let's play again." And so he showed up the second time. So
number 2 is a tie between Kobe and the quarters thing that we were talking about.
I mean,
Obviously, them hitting the in memoriam and the fact that you got to see that Kobe was always the same kid from start to finish. He just evolved how he was that person where he had the exact same killer instinct. You think you're going to beat me, bitch? And even when Jordan put some sauce on him in that All-Star game, Kobe didn't give a fuck. Kobe still went it right at his throat. And what's amazing about that, and there's lots of articles that have talked about their friendship and their relationship. But if you want to get at the core, the other number 2, I was talking about the core of who Michael Jordan was. The fact that he did have a gambling problem, and not to the point of, like you said, of being destitute, the way that Charles has a fucking issue and shit like that.
Right.
But a problem that, like he said, he's like, I'm just too competitive. So if the nigga's like, I could throw this quarter closer to that wall, and UK's like, bet, bitch, put your money on the wood, and I'm going to take your money, and it's in my pocket. I don't give a fuck if it's 50 cents or $1,000. That's my shit. Like, that's
first of all, I need you to understand the ethics and everything and the metrics that go into pitching quarters. It's not just throwing it towards the wall. There's a line. You want to be close to the line without going over, without having that some back to the wall. Also, if you are playing of the level of a Michael Jordan or even of a baller on the street, you are not just playing for said quarter in which you are pitching, sir. You are pitching for the money that is laid upon the table. And with Bob from Accounting won the $20. We must make sure because Bob from Accounting hit him with the.
But that's what was funny about Bob with the because I wasn't even Bob from Accounting. That
he was a security guard.
That was a security guard because he goes security. I'll get security out of here.
Do y'all know who? So do you know who Bob from Accounting is? Have you ever watched Martin?
Martin? That shit. Yes, fine.
But wait, you call me old? You reference Martin? Martin's like 3 decades old. But all right, go ahead.
Martin reference. I thought you were saying that this was the dude from Bob from Accounting. I was like, no, that was the security guy. But now I understand it. It doesn't matter. You're getting hung up on the wrong stuff. I need to get to my last point. My last point was the absolute best part about this episode by far is I didn't realize that Michael intentionally put the American flag over Reebok.
Oh,
so motherfuckers could get no endorsements. You want to talk petty. That is the pettiest shit. What are you going to say? Bitch, move the flag. Move the flag. This is about America.
I mean, Jordan wasn't having it. Jordan sitting in that car, he goes, "Oh, Bob, blah, 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 whatever that guy's name." He's like, he thinks he's going to, I got something for him. I got something for him. I mean, that's power, dude. When you're like, you think you're going to make me wear a logo that isn't my logo? I'll show you what's up, and puts the flag. I mean, the American flag puts it over that logo. That's incredible.
He didn't even want to have to wear the whole thing. He was like, you got to wear it. He was like, do you know why? He basically was like, do you see these billboards outside that are dedicated to me? Like, I don't want to have to do it. And I agree with you on that. There was another thing. One of the big things overall, aside the joking stuff, is Michael Jordan was tired of being Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's something people got to understand. There's a difference. And then a lot of people I saw in comments on Twitter and Facebook and whatnot was like, oh, you'll never get tired of that. Yes, you will.
Yeah.
Because he said, I'm trapped in this hotel room 24/7. If I want to be somewhere, I got to be stuck up in this hotel room. Yeah. If I go outside, I have to be on. I have to kiss every baby. I got to take every fucking photo. Yeah. They even backed it up. Like, we gave him a lot of shit, the black community did, about him saying Republicans buy shoes too.
Right.
To this day, there is still a decent level of shit that black people can give him for that. But in the same vein, you look at it and you look at what Barack said, and Jay and I were actually talking about this morning. When you're that big of a figure, everything you do is under scrutiny.
Yeah,
like, no matter what.
24/7. It doesn't matter. Especially as a black man at that level, everything out of your mouth is under scrutiny. And he was like, I never met the other dude. Like, I am making money from everybody right now. I'm staying apolitical, like whatever. And while on the one hand, the black man in me is like, bro, come on now. And he even said it. He was like, Muhammad Ali stood up for what he, and still was a legend, and people still respected him. But at the same time, that's a money move, and I want to hate him for it. But hearing that now, I can't get as angry as I was when I first heard it.
I don't think you can get, and this is something that's interesting when you watch this, because you don't know how much of this is Jordan legitimizing some of the decisions he made in his life now in retrospect to kind of like save the image and save the brand. By the way, this stat, Jumpman makes $3 billion a year. Jumpman makes $3 billion a year. That's insane for how much it's making for what it does. But you look at this, but Jordan said, I'm not a politician. I'm a basketball player. And maybe that's an issue with me, but that's all I was focused on. And the thing is, I think you could give him shit if he was inconsistent, if he was randomly for other candidates, but not for this candidate, or for this cause and not for this cause. He never came out for any politician anywhere, because it's just not his nature. For him, it's all about basketball. That's where the politics exist for him. That's where the Republicans and Democrats and independents and socialists and whatever, they exist on a basketball court. For him, whatever party he's a member of, the other party is the enemy. And so he wants to destroy that other party and be elected president every year. That's his goal. And when you elect another president, he wants to beat him into the ground. Barkley, Drexler, whoever it is, he wants to beat them into the ground by his play.
I agree with you. And I was just to piggyback off of that, I would say that like a lot of people like to compare Jordan and what he did to like the Dixie Chicks or to Taylor Swift. Now, if you look at it, but if you look at the two of them, look exactly what happened. The Dixie Chicks weren't at their, I guess that technically was their peak because of
they were at their peak,
but they were still rising. They could have gone a lot higher. They said what they said about the war, and then everything fucking stopped. And then you look at Taylor Swift, who didn't say shit for years, and people crucified her for that. But then she finally did when she felt like she couldn't anymore. But again, Taylor Swift had to hit a level that she became untouchable to save it. I don't think Jordan was at that level yet when this happened, that he really was fully blown untouchable, because that was after his like first or second championship. So people put respect on his name, but he wasn't the GOAT yet where he had the 6 fucking rings and no one ever, you know what I'm saying? Like if he wants to, like he did, about 2 years ago. He donated to a major black organization against police brutality. I think because it's at that point where Jumpman makes $3 billion, and Michael
also is that a political statement or just a civil rights statement? As like people would look at, like, you can't call an donating to an organization that is standing up against police brutality against unarmed black men and women, which is things that have been visibly shown. You can't consider that a political statement. You know what I'm saying? I get where you're going with. I get you 100%. But like, that's something that's like, yo, we need this foundation to keep going and growing.
Because the cop isn't stopping only Democratic black men. Sometimes police are stopping, not all police, obviously, but sometimes police are unfairly stopping men of color, regardless of political affiliation, and they're getting into these situations. So I can see how donating to that is more of an overall point rather than a specific political point.
While I agree with both of you, the only reason I slightly disagree is from the standpoint that he could have easily made that donation without saying anything. He made a statement about it after the fact. So
very true.
A political statement because he didn't just donate the money. He took the time out to say X, Y, Z, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because people silent donate shit all the time, and then it's not a statement, but it's just a whatever. You know what I mean?
I silently donated sperm. I mean, like, yo.
Okay. All right.
How many children do you actually have is now the question.
I'm bullshit. I've never donated sperm.
It was
just the easy. You just left the door open. It was just like I
didn't know you could put dust in a plastic container. Okay, cool. Obviously, the other thing to look at here with Jordan is I enjoyed the fact that Jordan kind of clarified the Isaiah Thomas thing. He's like, you can put that on me if you want. But he had other things going on here. And I think finally we addressed the Isaiah Thomas thing in a way that had more perspective to it overall. So I like that idea. I like that he was able to finally say, look, I wasn't the only one. And Isaiah, look, this has been incredible by Isaiah to have to take this guy.
Is he talking to a gremlin now?
Yeah, well, that's what you do when you cross that senile age. You start talking to dolls. But like you look at him, and he said this stuff about Isaiah said this stuff, and then but backed it all up with evidence. And so, yeah, I mean, and he could have pushed, right? He could have pushed to put Isaiah on the team. And a couple of people I was reading on ESPN said this is the first time he's ever complimented Isaiah to this level. And that took 30 years for him to finally compliment Isaiah publicly that he thought he was the second best point guard ever behind Magic Johnson. And that is a strong, strong statement, you know? And so
I agree with that statement too. Like he said it, and I was like, I'll put him in top 5, but second best point guard ever?
I don't know, man. Isaiah was incredible. And that team had no business.
I know. See, that's because the evolution of the point guard position is such a thick position of players that have played it at a high elite level. Yeah. So it's hard to even say who the top 5 are. Let's just be realistic. It's very difficult to say the top 5 overall. Because that's a position, when you look at it, you don't look at it just from a scoring standpoint. You look at it from a floor general mastery standpoint.
Yeah.
I look at somebody like a CP3, a Rajon Rondo, and Isaiah Thomas.
But that's the whole thing. I think CP3 instantly, in my opinion, falls out of that conversation because he never got over the hump and got the ring.
Yeah.
He never got anywhere close to getting an MVP.
Yeah.
But you look at people like Steve Nash. I mean, even Barkley not only made it to the finals, but got an MVP from the league. You know what I'm saying? So maybe he didn't get the ring, and they love to tease him about that shit.
Right.
But he ascended to types of heights that you were comparing him to Michael. That it set Michael off in that finals to be like, this nigga got the fucking MVP. All right. I'm gonna do something about this. You know what I mean?
I got you.
I rewatched the 30 for 30 documentary on the Bad Boys on the Pistons over the weekend just because, you know, it was fun. I've got time, and it was fun to watch it again and remember how good Isaiah really was as a player. Yeah, for all the crap. And, you know, it's tough being Jordan's shadow. It's tough being hated by the greatest player to ever play the game. It kind of turns people against you automatically. But you hear people from Detroit, from Michigan, talk about that team and talk about how much they love that team. And, you know, sometimes Isaiah can get pushed aside when people talk about the greatest ever. And when you watch what he was able to do, listen, with a team that had no business at times winning you could argue winning a title. Bill Laimbeer, for God's sakes, you had no business winning a title, but they found a way to do it through Isaiah's leadership and his strength and his abilities. Of course, Chuck Daly and the GM there as well, doing everything as possible to give him the tools that he needed. But Isaiah did it twice. I mean, winning back to back. That's
as a Chicago, we'll always give him love for that. Like we'll never. Chicago, you played for the enemy. You know what I'm saying? You played for Detroit, but you still a Chicago boy. Like we always gonna show Zeke love.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like ain't nobody gonna in Chicago be like Isaiah Thomas. We're gonna be like that's Zeke. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna show him love for what he's done. But when you're talking about the best point guard in the game, I don't think he's number one. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the thing.
Yeah. I think you can argue Steph. I think you can argue Magic. I think I don't know about CP3. I don't think I can argue CP3 because he's never carried a team to the title, so at least to the final.
I mean, if you look at Alec Miller, he made the argument that if he doesn't get injured in the Warriors game, that the Rockets win the series in 6 games.
Yeah, maybe. At that point,
they said that a lot of people said if the Warriors were the Rockets were a full strength team, they would have beaten the Warriors. I think that's but
here's the problem: you can't make that argument for a number of reasons. You know why? Because if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's a situation where you can't play the what ifs because Grant Hill could have been the greatest player of all time. And Grant Hill could have been the greatest player of all time.
Yeah, right. If he hadn't got injured so much, or Tracy McGrady could have been an all-star for many years if he hadn't had that big injury. That's a fair point. Absolutely.
Right. So you can't play the what if game. Like that's not.
I get that. I mean, and you can't because by that regards, we can go what if for so many scenarios.
Yeah,
you know, it's endless, and I agree with that. But even people looked at, you know, how Cleveland loses one year, then wins the next. You know, it's all those different things. But again, when we're talking about what we're going back to with Isaiah Thomas in the top 5 or 10, now top 10 point guards of history, he's absolutely in it. Yeah. The question becomes, is it top 5?
I think he's top 5. Absolutely. I do. I absolutely think he's top 5, maybe even top 3, to be honest with you, with the record he had and the way he played and the style he did. And he also got injured before he had a chance to do a late run as an older player. He got that Achilles tendon injury, and that was that. He was 32 or something like that when it happened. So there was still maybe 3 more years left. I mean, CP3 is 95 years old. He's still doing it. So like that, he could have lasted a little bit longer if he hadn't had the Achilles heel injury. I want to clarify one thing. Jordan was 27 for 100 from three for the season. I guess I was confused with the numbers. He was 5 for 16 in the playoffs before that game, and then dropped those 6 trays in one half.
Can you imagine having a gear in your brain that you get so angry or so petty that literally you go Super Saiyan? You're Mario with the star. You're literally invincible. The minute you go, what'd you say about me?
Right.
All right, bitch, I got your ass. Because we all have that mode where we think we can do that, but it doesn't always play out that way.
Yeah.
Michael literally decided if he was angry enough, whatever it is that he wasn't good enough to do at that time, he automatically is perfect at.
Yeah, it's almost like guessing South Carolina in a game and beating the prize champion. It's almost like coming back.
I'll genuinely give you that, because you remember I text you like a day later and I told you that, like, I get it, Dan Murrell, blah, blah, blah. I say that you're the GOAT for a litany of reasons, and one of them is random shit like that. Doesn't make fucking sense.
Random shit. The other thing I want to talk about with this documentary, man, I really enjoyed seeing the footage. I mean, I didn't know I was basketball starved until I watched this new footage of them playing in Monte Carlo in that practice where Magic and them were up by 9 points, and Magic started talking shit on Jordan. It was incredible because they had just gotten beat by Jordan in the finals.
But there's been talks about those tapes. There's been talks about those tapes for the longest. Like everybody was wondering, like, yo, where are the practice tapes? Because there's supposedly one game where Christian Laettner got his ass whooped the next year, something like that or whatever. So it's like, where are those tapes? And to see Magic be like, it's just like we in Chicago Stadium. They're giving them all the calls.
That's how deep his resentment of Jordan went. And that's the thing. The great players hate when their time is done and the younger players are getting the perks that they got when they were younger. They hate it because it signifies that their time is almost over. Even Magic made that joke. He said, you can't get too close to Michael, or they'll call a foul on you when they were doing the picture, right? Jordan took it in stride. He said, you ain't committed a foul in a year and a half. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about, y'all?
Out of a game. So, I mean, just throwing it back. When you're up at that level, you can ball bust like that because you're all just the greats. But he ignited Jordan, and it was so funny to hear that these great players were all silently getting on the bus for like an hour and a half afterwards until somebody broke the tension because there was so much going on between them. Nobody wanted to be the first to like weigh in. Everyone was like, I'm gonna leave this alone, let them figure it out. But that's how much Jordan was driven by even the slightest little comment. It was just the wrong thing to do. He would turn it into gold.
That's that wild shit that I'm talking about, though, is the fact that, like, Magic said, you better turn into Air Jordan if you're going to win this game, up 9. And Jordan said, what, bitch? And then literally turned Super Saiyan on a motherfucker. Just because he's like, you better be that Air Jordan. He goes, how, bitch?
You know what? That's a veteran. That's a veteran seeing potential in the up-and-coming guy. That's the veteran who knows you can do better than this. And always the statement is, you practice like you will perform. So if you're going to practice on this half speed, fuck that. You got the best stars in the NBA, which are technically some of the best stars in the world at the time. If you're going to half-ass with us, you better come and play this game like you're going to play it. And Mike was like, excuse me 1 second.
Wait,
let's go.
Wait, I just realized something.
What's that, bud?
Because I started thinking about Space Jam, right?
Oh, here we go.
You realize that they went and took Michael's gambling problem and made that a point of the movie. Because at the start of Act 3, he goes, I heard y'all got a deal. Now you got a new deal. You betting with me now. If I win, you let them go. And if you win, fine, I'll be your slave, son. Like, my boy was willing to literally be a black man put back into slavery to prove a point. Like, you would have said that of a gambling problem.
Let's talk about the gambling, because that's always been the legendary thing. I know Bill Simmons talks about it all the time, but he thinks I don't know how much of it he really believes, but he likes to float the conspiracy theory that Jordan took a year and a half off in the middle there between the 2 3-peats because David Stern was going to suspend him before the gambling issues. And that was all brought up and we'll talk about Sam Smith as well and the Jordan Rules, which is a great book. I've read that book. That book is unsettling to read, but damn good to read. And you look at this situation here with the gambling. Here's what struck me, Winston. I don't know if you agree. Maybe Jay went to go take a piss. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but Jordan is apparently not that good at gambling because, I mean, him owing so much money all over the place, right? Jordan is not the best gambler. He's owing $1.5 million to a guy to the point where he's writing a book about it. That's insane to me.
I mean, go ahead.
Go ahead, Wilson. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say what it comes down to, and this is the problem. He's too competitive. So if it's something that he's actually good at, so like basketball, but that was the thing. He wouldn't bet. He was smart enough to never actually bet on an NBA game and get himself in trouble. He was smart enough not to do that. But he honestly, and I'm going to try not to say the word again for the rest of the show because I realize I've already said it 3 times. Jordan was a nigga. And so that meant that if he had an opportunity to take your money, he was going to take – it was 4 times. Fine, Jay, that's fine. If he had an opportunity to take your money – he was going to take your money. And the fact that he came to the front of the plane and they were playing for $1 a blackjack hand.
Yo, when he went into the blackjack game and Will Purdue was like, the fuck are you doing?
Why
like,
you
I want to
white guys
$1 in my pocket. Like that.
There also is the theory that his now there's a big theory that's always passed around, just like you said about the David Stern and the years he took off with that was supposed to be his suspension. But it also is a theory that his gambling may have caused his father's death. There's also then that real big theory that his gambling debts may have amassed so much they are the reason his father was killed. This is a big conspiracy theory. Now, nobody take my word for it, but this has been a conspiracy theory that has been touted since it happened. Because right after it happened, it came out like, yo, Michael gambles a lot. And like you just said earlier, Rocha, it's not small amounts Michael gambles on. Michael had I'm going to say it for Winston. Michael had a nigga named Slim Bula that he owed money to with a Jerry Curl.
I have read and seen just about everything on Jordan. I'd never heard of Slim Bula. When Slim showed up, I was like,
did you see Slim?
This is a whole nother Michael Jordan I didn't know about.
Slim looked like a pimp named Slickback with no hat on. He looked like Easy.
He had a Jerry Curl
from NWA. Like he literally looked like he just got done off of robbing a trick. Just because.
I know.
Hey, what's up, bitch? Listen, bitch, I got Michael Jordan on the line, bitch. I want you to have my money and Michael to have my goddamn. Bitch, listen, I want you to go over to Jordan's locker room, bitch, and tell Michael that if Michael don't have my motherfucking money, bitch, I swear to God, I'm going to dunk on his air ass, okay?
This is my point. This is my point, though. I don't think I didn't have a problem with Jordan gambling because he's one of these guys that like can get high and have no problem functioning. Like there are
the money.
Right, because what he said is actually logical. Like, sure, like Ahmad Rashad, Rashad said he shouldn't have had the sunglasses on, but he said, like, look, I'm not sitting here like, like losing my wife and losing my house, because I don't have a problem. I just like to gamble. It's a hobby of mine. And Ahmad said that $10,000 for us is like $10 to him, and so you've got to kind of look at it in perspective, right? And that really brought it forward in perspective. But when Slim showed up, and my boy owed him $57,000 in a gambling situation and hadn't paid him. That's the thing. Also, Jordan's a little cheap. Jordan don't pay up. That's a little thing too. Don't
forget the check. Don't forget the check that showed up. Don't forget the check that showed.
I mean, if he owes a guy $1.5 million and the guy's writing a book because he's pissed off about it, that tells you that Jordan didn't really like to pay up on his debt. He also didn't even like to lose. He didn't like to pay. He's the Christian Harloff of the NBA. He doesn't like to pay up when he loses. But those are those things that you see. He knows. I bust his balls about it all the time. But that's the situation there when you see with Jordan. He doesn't like to pay when he loses the bets. And so you just see that all the time. Well, there you go. There you go. Cat Williams. I think I lost both of my co-hosts with that joke.
I needed a beer after that. Whoa, Lord Jesus. You can't just be doing shit like that trying to fuck up my money. You're not gonna do that.
No. Christian knows. I always give him shit about it. He'll call me out about it on SNI. I'm
sure. See, I intentionally did not get a seltzer because I didn't want to hear your shit and look at your basic bitch ass out here. God damn.
So, but I love Christian. I always give him shit. But Jordan clearly didn't pay his debts because if you're racking up $1.5 million, it's because you're not paying. And so you can say, hey, he had $10,000 to bet on things. Sure. But he certainly had $1.5 million to give, considering that sneakers contract that he was getting from like 18, 19, 20 years old on. He was getting paid, man.
Can we talk about that real quick, too?
Yeah, please.
How he changed what Nike was?
Yeah.
How Nike was.
They were just attraction. They were just the Cortezes.
Yeah.
They were just the Cortezes. And then to evolve them. But then here's the best part. I think people didn't pay attention to. Everybody loves the Jordan 1s when they just were released.
His feet were bleeding? No,
I was feet were bleeding. Yeah. These bitches are not meant to be hooping.
Hold on. Here's the funniest part about it, though. Jordan is so petty. His feet were like, my nigga, we're bleeding down here. Can you stop? Nah, bitch. I'm going to show you who the motherfucking GOAT right now. I got. Took a shoe. I'm like, now what, you fucking stank-ass feet? Bleeding and shit like a little bitch. I showed you who the GOAT is. Like literally talking to him.
Who was that? I forgot who was it on the team that was like, yo, you finna bust these out? He was like, yeah. He's like, you know what? I can bust out whatever. He was talking about how he has shoes or whatever. Like, y'all wear these. Like, y'all wear my other shoes. Like, that is a level of Michael Jordan's petties, but it's also the fun he has with the team. But it also is another thing if people pay attention.
Yeah.
Michael's separation from the team.
Yeah. Right.
When he comes into the arena, because I used to work at the United Center. When he comes into the United Center, there is a room. It's Michael. He has to decompress because again, the moment he gets off that bus, he has to be on.
Yeah.
You're swarmed with fans who are not supposed to get past the barricades, fans who are not supposed to be back. So you're dealing with all that. Then you got to get ready for the game mentally.
Yeah.
Then you got to do that. Then you got to have the game. And as remember, we saw they would win. What's first thing you see him, Scottie Pippen, and Ron Harper doing, all looking like they finna start a goddamn R&B group, popping Miller Lite.
Hey, let's talk. Go ahead, Jay. Sorry,
he needed to decompress because he was even like, man, I got to go do press. He knows. And his press wasn't like everybody else's press.
Yep. And I remember those things. I remember when those were released. That was a big deal. People in high school, you knew the demarcation line between people who could afford those shoes and people who couldn't, because there was a lot of knockoff Air Jordans they sold at Kmart and they sold at whatever place you go and shop at.
Call RB3. Your manager knows about selling knockoff Jordans.
True, very true. Real quick, I want to stop here to say, hey, everybody, please remember we've got the super chats and the Streamlabs open. You know, you want to send in some money, give some love. You're enjoying the show, right? You're laughing your ass off. Got over 120 y'all in here. This is a unique sports show on the internet. There is no limits here, no filters. We're talking truths about things, and we're having some fun doing it. Show some support. Send in some Streamlabs. They don't take away 33% like they do on super chat. So send in some Streamlabs. Ask us some questions. Let's talk about it so we can all, make a little bit of cash here and keep the lights on the Outlaw Nation during game time. Also, one last thing, Jeremy and Haskell, cut it out. Don't be fighting on this feed over the American flag. Cut it out. All right. Let's focus on what we're talking about. All right. What were you saying, Jay? Here, I want to talk on this point too. You were talking about the Adidas and the Nike stuff. I mean, his parents, right? His parents, you got to give him credit. If he had listened to his mom,
was like, boy, if you don't get your ass on this plane.
Right.
Like, and that's the thing. Like, he was literally going to go with Adidas. He was like, this is what I'm going to do. Because, again, at the time, hip-hop is Adidas. Adidas is hip-hop. And you're bringing hip-hop into the game. Yeah. But Nike, his agent is like, no, we're going to transcend and do something different. Right. And who would have ever thought that him getting on that plane would translate into what you just said earlier, $3.8 billion a year.
Yeah.
Again, this is in part to the fact of how popular Michael Jordan within himself is. His same shoes have been released 2 and 3 times over in various colors, and no matter what, they sell out. I have still been looking for certain Jordans, even though my feet tell me I shouldn't buy them because I wear a 14, which means I'm paying $200 of shoes. But in general, you watch, like, there was videos over the weekend of lines of people, and of course everybody's like, well, they're not social distancing. Look, ain't nobody giving a shit about social distancing when it's come to Jordans. It's just how it's been. But that just shows the power of Michael Jordan, and it's not to take away from any other athlete. It takes away. It takes credit to and shows credit. It plays credit to the mystique of Michael Jordan, but also again, him having to be Air Jordan, him having to be this person. At the end of the day, him just wanting to provide for his family and play basketball, but him having to be more than that.
Right. Agree. Anything else stand out for you, Winston?
No. I mean, I just got my heart broken because I was like. Yeah, no, I did always want some Jordan 1s, man. Like, I didn't really ever get any Jordans, and I just happened to look, and they're like, hey, you got $10,000 you can come up on. I was
like, well, Kobe has a story about this. I read this, I think, on ESPN. He was talking to a sports writer. I can't remember the sports writer's name, but he was talking about him on the baseline, and Kobe's during his final year, he was coming up on the 4 or 5 year anniversary of him scoring 81 points against Toronto. And the sports writer asked Kobe, are you going to bust out your Kobe shoes from that game, just like Jordan did when he bust out those Air Ones against the Knicks? And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. And you're a fool if you believe he busted those out just to be sentimental. What happened was Jordan's company Nike was about to re-release those Air Ones. And so for him, it was a marketing thing to play in those shoes. And that shows you another level of genius of Michael Jordan, if that's true, because not only was it sentimental, but it also served his needs as a businessman. And that tells you all you need to know about Michael. Always thinking about 2 or 3 things at the same time, always thinking ahead of time with it and knowing how to play the public correctly. So smart.
And I just have to say to Lamar Ball, that's how you big baller brand new. Like, that's how you do that.
Right.
Well, also you have shoes that people really can look. It looks okay to wear anytime, anywhere.
Further beyond that, see, you don't send your son out there. Michael didn't send himself out there with some shoes that would fall apart. His feet were bleeding, maybe, but he didn't tear an Achilles wearing them. Whereas your son almost lost his knee playing in them damn big baller brand shoes. So
that's true.
Also, but that's another thing too about Nike. Remember, they even said it right when he got the Jordans. They had just started the air cushions. They had just invented new technology for the shoes. So. You're on the cutting edge of technology at the time. You're one of the top players in the NBA at the time. You're becoming this popular face. And like his agent said, I want to make you like a tennis player, because Arthur Ashe, the tennis player at the time, was bigger than a basketball player. Like we have to look at what Jordan was as a whole for a lot of the game, not just the play of the game, the evolution of the business of the game. You know, making people become like you had stars. There was always a Larry Bird. There was always a Isaiah Thomas and Elgin Baylor. You can keep going back. There were always stars. Michael Jordan is arguably the first superstar in the NBA.
Yeah, you could argue
to the level at which he was.
I think
Magic. No, you could say that about Magic, because
I would say he's the first solo superstar of the NBA, because Magic always had Bird. There was always competition.
Always Magic and Bird. It was never by himself.
Yeah, and Jordan was the first one that kind of went by himself.
Yeah, it was never. It was. You're absolutely right. It was never Magic by himself, never Bird by themselves.
Right.
Everything was done was the pair of them together. Michael was the first one to be by himself as a star, as the level of which he a superstar in the game, where it was more about him than anybody else in the game.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen that since. You know, Kobe rarely had a rival other than Shaq. But LeBron was at the tail end. LeBron came in right as Kobe was fading out.
But even to that point, even with Kobe still being the best in the league for a few years while LeBron was there, I don't think there was ever a point where the two of them were ever like rival. Like Kobe was here, and then once, because I would make the argument about Michael. Michael didn't just come in and automatically he was the face of the league. I mean, people were like, "Yo, this kid is the shit." He didn't just automatically become the face.
Nobody's ever said that. No, I'm definitely not saying
that. And the only argument that I would say against it is we talked about it for a while. Isaiah Thomas, like until he became not relevant anymore, compared to Michael, that was his rival. He could not get past Isaiah and those bad boy Pistons. Once he did, it wasn't even an argument anymore. Then it wasn't a thing. But for a while, that was, and that to me is why when I watched the Bad Boys 30 for 30, because I didn't really know a lot about like late 80s, early 90s basketball. I started watching basketball around like 94, 95.
Yeah.
Oh, 94, 95 is what he said, because then he froze.
I wonder what it's like for Winston to go back and watch those. What's it like, Winston? What's it like for you to go back and watch that NBA, man? Because you see the shit they pulled back then, you could never get away with it now. And like the fact that Robert Parrish got to stay in the game after throwing 3 straight punches at Lambeer in the face,
and poor Ron Artest isn't allowed to punch a fan for throwing shit.
Well, a fan is a whole nother argument. I don't think anybody would have stayed for a fan.
But the biggest thing is not even just we talk about the physicality of defense with these teams in comparison from the NBA now to the NBA back then. But let's not even go to the physicality down low. There's one thing that changed the entire game: hand checks.
Yeah, hand checks. Yep. In the 90s. Yep, absolutely. Don't disagree with you on that. Tim Duncan got 5 rings on Kobe's watch. He did, but Duncan was never the superstar Kobe was. Sorry, he wasn't. You could put rings on Robert Horry. He's got 7 of them. He was never the superstar that Kobe was. Tim Duncan, just good of a player. You can argue absolutely in his position, but he was never the superstar. No one was getting out. Yeah, I got to get those Duncan kicks. or I got to go get Duncan on my talk show. It was Kobe who you want.
But that's on Duncan. He intentionally
exactly. That was Duncan.
Right. Not to do that because he could have. There were opportunities, and he was like, "Nah, like wearing my khakis and like talking to nobody." So like, that was a personal like thing on him. It's similar to what you see Kawhi sort of doing, though. That laugh and the way he played the Spurs kind of put him in a status where people don't look at him like Tim Duncan. They look at him more like I don't know, like kind of a sort of like a Cam Newton, I guess, a little bit.
But about him, except he wins.
Title, so
sorry. I'm just saying he wins. The other thing too, I thought was fascinating. I want to touch on this. I don't think we should leave the Kobe conversation without fully talking about how these players talked about him in the back. I thought that was really revelatory, and probably Jordan himself sensing a little bit of himself in Kobe. Didn't necessarily see Kobe as a rival at that time. Saw him as a young kid coming in. It must have been so interesting for Jordan to play with a 19-year-old kid, remembering his time coming into the league. But all those guys were always going to, kid from LA is going to turn into a one-on-one
All-Star game. In that All-Star game.
But by the end, they all had respect for the kid. I mean, because he even called off Karl Malone and decided to shoot his ball during. I remember that during the game. And Kobe looked like a kid who wanted to be there, felt he belonged there, but also realized he had more to learn. And his comments about Jordan, I thought, were really sweet. You know, of course, the late, great Kobe Bryant, tragically taken too early from us. But him saying things like, you know, whenever people talk about, who'd win on a one-on-one between me and Jordan, I always hate that stuff because Jordan is the one that showed me the path. He always guided me. He said, anything you need, young man, and he was always there for me. That speaks volumes. You know, instead of helping other superstars, Jordan saw something in Kobe that was different. And it's so interesting to kind of put that into context and think about, you know.
It's never been a secret that Kobe has always said, without him, there's no me.
Right.
He's literally said that.
Yeah.
He even said that as his game evolved, because he emulated Mike. Yeah. So you can never forget that. And Kobe has never shied away from saying that. He's never been like, well, I might have learned something that took this. No, Kobe's always said, I learned, I watched, I studied him. Yeah. You know, to play one-on-one against him, you know, be one-on-one on the court when they were in the, you know, teams, he was still learning and studying him. And even he would say Mike was still teaching him things.
Right.
While they were up, while he was on defense again. Mike is, so can you imagine you Kobe Bryant on defense? You spread, you in your pose. Mike got the ball now. Now look where my eyes are going, okay? My eyes are going left, but guess what? I'm going right. Could you imagine being Kobe Bryant? You get shook. Let's say you get shook, but you're not embarrassed. You just realize you learned.
Right.
But I think the thing that's super interesting about it, because this debate happens all the time, and I know Laker fans always want to say one way or the other.
Yeah.
What do they want to say?
What do you want to say, Winston?
No, I was saying everybody universally says Michael. I would make the argument, if you put them both at their peaks, when Kobe had finally learned how to do everything, I would make the argument that Kobe could maybe potentially take him. And I think the only reason I say that, hold on.
I like it, though. I like it.
The only reason I say that is from the standpoint that you look at it. Obviously, Jordan had more rings, but Kobe took everything that Michael did and he kind of bashed the shit out of it. I mean, the points.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like every record that Michael set, Kobe kind of came in and said, "What?" So
but because at the same time, it's possible when you learn how you already have a killer mentality yourself, right? You have that, and then you apply another killer's mentality on top of that. You should be better in that regard. But then also, Kobe comes in at the evolution and the changing of the league.
Right,
the league is beginning to change while Kobe's there, so it's easier for Kobe to score.
That's all. But that's all I'm saying is the fact that like. What's so crazy about watching those highlights. I had always heard that Kobe essentially became the carbon copy of Michael. Watching some of these Michael highlights I had never seen before, because I had seen a number of Jordan games, but I haven't seen like the litany, and they're showing us everything.
Yeah, true.
Watching him like get fouled and shit, and at the last second be like, and then the ball still goes, and then fucking goes in, and you're like, how?
I remember watching them live.
Well, I've seen Kobe do that shit all the time.
Yeah.
Infinitely more Kobe games than Michael games, and so literally to think about the fact that again he molded it so perfectly after Jordan's game. That's what you're saying. You would assume that there is a level of an upgrade a little bit because he got to study something so great and emulated that shit.
I would say that the only person in the modern NBA that I've seen since Michael Jordan who go toe-to-toe with Jordan is Kobe Bryant at his prime. And I think because both of those guys are alpha dogs who mind yelling at anybody. They would yell at their mother if their mother was playing on the team to win. And I think that's the difference between both those guys.
The Jordan rule.
Yeah. We'll talk.
Because some of the teammates was like, yo, this grown-ass man keep cussing at me. But it's like he's cussing at you to make you better. Yeah. Because he knows you can. I understand that. I always have that when I train in wrestling. You always have the trainers who are trying to push you harder. They're like, yo, you can do this. And you sometimes may feel like you can't do a certain move or can't take a certain bump. But they're like, no, we see you can do it. And so Jordan being that leader on the court in practice, like, I'm watching you. I can see what your game is. Step your shit up. And that's what you want. You don't want to have a team leader who's just like, all right, if that's what y'all want to do, then fine, just do it. Because let's be honest, we've seen that from LeBron James numerous times. We've seen the fire up your team from Kobe Bryant, though.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the. I think LeBron. I think he'd absolutely eat LeBron's brain for lunch. No problem at all. I think Durant, if Durant ever got out of the second place mentality, maybe Durant could give Jordan a game one-on-one at his peak. Right.
He's too soft.
He's too soft. Right. At times he's too soft, and he's also pissed off about being too soft. Whereas LeBron is passive aggressive. I think Jordan would eat that up. So I think Kobe was the only one, and maybe that's why he took time with Kobe, because he realized this is the second coming of me. I got to take care of this as a legacy thing.
I would make the argument the only player with the mentality to try and keep up with Jordan right now would be Russell Westbrook. But I don't think that he has that.
Russell's too out of control, though.
But that's what I was saying. I'm saying the attitude. He has that exact same killer instinct, but he does not have the raw talent.
Does he?
Yes. Yes.
But when he's in the zone, it does, but it's not consistent.
But that's
okay. That's what I'll go. Okay, consistency.
But it's not just that. It's the fact that his killer instinct does not match the way that Kobe and MJ did, where like if he goes in that mode, he's unstoppable.
Yeah.
He could put up some numbers, but like you said, it's not because he could be just as angry and go 3 for 12. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And still want to take that last shot.
They're getting 12 for 12. It's just going to happen.
Right. So. Let's see. Before we jump into the Jordan rules real quick, 2 things here. Tavishka Productions donated to Streamlab. He said, Petty J, make some threes. Show us how much you hate Jerry. I don't know what that means, but okay, I like it. Haskell says, John, my apologies. This argument is based on Jeremy saying Reebok disrespected the U.S. flag and Team USA by being a sponsor, and since they didn't need the sales. My point was they bought the rights, put their logos on the gear, and didn't disrespect the USA. Well, I hear you. I just think I don't think there's any flag being disrespected here. And as a military man, as a man who served my country for 8 years, I will tell you that. I don't think there was a disrespect to the U.S. flag. He used the flag to cover up a logo because he felt the logo was infringing on his rights as a human being to choose to represent whatever brand he wanted to represent. That's his right as a human being. And he's going to represent the country. He's going to represent the country his way. So putting the flag over it, in essence, kind of comes back to the what this whole country was founded on was independence. It's literally called Independence Day. And Jordan wanted to be independent to put whatever he wanted to put and cover up that logo because he didn't want to rep that logo. So that's the end of the argument, or I'm going to start kicking you guys out of the chat. That's for damn sure. Let's see. I'm just saying. Let's just see here from Cody Erickson. He dropped a couple super chats. He said, Red Rocket over Trybumsky. Wow. Taking shots at your boy, at Trubisky. Ooh. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We're going to wrap up here in just a second. I want to make sure I get all the super chats in here. He sent another one. He said, Becky said Vince was taking bumps off the tower. What does that mean? Do you know what that means?
Oh, that means so for Money in the Bank. So they're taping it now. So what they're doing, it's going to be a dramatic feel like you got with the Firefly Funhouse, with the Boneyard Brawl. Yeah. They're taping it throughout Stamford, and clearly Vince is taking bumps with them while they're doing it.
Holy crap!
Because what I'm heard is supposed to happen. We won't see the whole match at once. Right. For everybody who's expecting.
Oh, it'll go in stages.
It'll go. The match will be happening while other match. You'll see another match in the ring, and then we'll cut back to the action that's going on. Because remember, you got to climb the corporate ladder, so you have to start at the ground floor of Stamford, Connecticut, get to the top of Titan Towers.
That's brilliant.
And then get to the ring, which is on top of the tower. Then climb the ladder to get the briefcase that's being held. So theoretically, this is kind of a dope idea.
Yeah, we'll see if it works. And certainly some of it worked for WrestleMania. Cody also said Russ is the last OG in the league. Is that true? Is he the last OG in the league?
I mean, I can't think of anybody else off the top of my list. I will fuck you up mentality. I can't think of anybody.
Yeah.
Because the only ones I could think of, but maybe their skill doesn't match that. And they're out of the league now. Would be like the Matt Barnes of the world, the Ron Artest. But the last dude before Russ was Kobe.
Right.
They've said it before because Russ also being from LA, he watched Kobe.
Right.
That's fair.
He watched Michael.
That's
where he gets that from.
Yeah, I would understand that. Let's see. Okay, so one last thing, though. Let's talk about Sam Smith. I remember when this book came out, Jay, and they talk about it in the documentary as well. This really was the first crack in that veneer that Jordan had created about himself and his people, his PR team had created about him, and Be Like Mike and all of that stuff. This was such a window into Michael Jordan. But what I find now in retrospect is it's a bit unfair because I'm sure Larry yelled at his teammates. I'm sure Magic yelled at his teammates. I'm sure a lot of the stars, Oscar Robertson, the Big O, was apparently very difficult to get along with. So there's a lot of players that probably did this before, but because Jordan was on the highest of highest pedestals, this was something that really kind of started to show that there was stuff going on behind the scenes that maybe some people didn't enjoy, didn't like. And it's the beginning. I think it was the beginning of the slow progression of Jordan being disillusioned by being this Michael Jordan product, because if it could be exposed like this.
Well, I agree. I definitely agree because why would you not yell at your team to be better? We saw the results. It'd be a different story if there were no tangible results. We saw the tangible outcome. We even saw the players go, i.e. Steve Kerr. Yeah, he yelled at us, but it made us better. Horace Grant telling me that he told me to pick my shit up. Don't let them see me hurt and whine. If Mike doesn't do this, you don't have a team that finally beats Detroit.
Yeah, right. Great points. Absolutely. What do you think there, Winston?
It's ironic, and there's a series done by Wondery, a podcast series called Sports Wars, and I've been listening to the one recently about Jerry Rice versus Deion Sanders.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny. Jerry Rice is actually a very similar comparison to Michael Jordan.
Yep.
And that when you listen to his stories and the way he would cuss the Niners the fuck out, like especially when Deion showed up for that one season and they were like out partying in 2 days, like, the fuck you think this is? We here for a ring. Y'all better get your tired asses together doing this old bullshit.
Yeah.
Anybody that was out there actually performing and doing what was right for the team. That's why Jordan respected Rodney. He's like, look, my dude need to go and gamble for a little bit and see some titties and whatever else. Like, I'm fine with it because when it comes down to it, guess what? He shows up to practice in his pajamas and outruns everybody.
Yeah.
If you show me that you can be a dysfunction outside of here, but come in here and do our job, I don't give a shit what you do. But if you aren't, just like Kobe was like softer than Charmin. Like that's what Michael was. They'll call you out for that shit.
Yeah.
And I think that was the thing is that Michael had it, Larry had it, but remember both of them way more than Michael Jordan.
Yep.
Sorry, Magic had it and Larry had it. Way more than Michael Jordan. They were too personable.
Yep.
Magic has ever been the hey y'all, welcome to Magic Johnson Theaters. Like
you ain't doing your tongue fat enough to do it. Like, hey y'all, welcome to Magic Johnson Theaters. These are high theaters in the hood for the community, for the black people.
Well, but behind the Magic thing, listen, Magic isn't successful as a businessman, just shaking hands and glad handing and mofos. Magic can be ruthless himself. I mean, watching that tape at Monte Carlo, when Jordan starts turning it on, Magic starts to lose it, starts to whine to the ref, complain, throws the ball into the stands. That's a competitive person. It's just a practice, but that's how competitive he is, Jay. I mean, that's the thing. You see this guy. So for all the smiling and all the stuff he does, I'm sure behind the scenes, Magic was ruthless. And people forget, you should go back and look at the history of Magic. Magic got a lot of shit from the Lakers fans when they changed coaches. He got a lot of shit when they blew it in the finals against the Celtics. He had to constantly take the hits and the slings and the arrows. He wasn't just a smiley guy that they handed everything to right from the beginning. He had his struggles and he had to overcome his stuff too. So him seeing Michael come in, there was a bit of pride there, which was playing out in that Monte Carlo practice tape as well. So
I don't disagree, and I
think he's ruthless.
I don't disagree, and I don't take that away from him. But there is. We talk about what someone's kind of main nature is, as far as like who they were when they were at the peak of their game, and that was the thing. He was Showtime. Yep. He made the Showtime Lakers. He was the Flash, and like he had the talent to back it, but it was the $1 million smile. And the guy that all the guy that all the ladies loved, all that kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? It's also why him making the announcement of having AIDS was such a big deal.
Oh yeah,
because he was that personality. So for him to have made that statement and everything he's done, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's my only thing. It's not to say that Michael doesn't have a personable side, but Magic would have probably like given a nod to that politician and been like, hey, brothers and sisters, like we got to do something about this. But that's not
you gotta say it with the fat tongue. Hey, my brothers and sisters, listen, I think we need a better change for the community. So what you need to do is be like Showtime and go support this brother man over there. Because
you sound like King Shark and not like Magic, bro.
Magic thought like. Do you remember Magic Johnson having a talk show that they had to cancel because nobody could understand and listen to Magic talk? It was like Magic Johnson with a talk show. You were like, Jesus, no. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Magic Johnson show. I'm Magic Johnson. No, the thing, though. Like, what are you saying, nigga? Are you Magic Johnson or Mike Tyson? Like, Magic was talking about something that people got to listen to how I talk about things. No, you got to understand you first in English, you fat tongue fuck. All right,
all right. That's enough. Hill Nellens. He donated here on Streamlabs. He said, great discussion. My question always with these debates, Jordan versus Kobe or anyone versus anyone, are we talking one-on-one or who's best for a team? It's a privilege to watch MJ I was privileged to watch MJ most of his career as well as Kobe. I never truly felt Kobe made his team better. Oh, interesting. Oh.
I would.
That's a good debate to have. Did Kobe make the Lakers better, and they won titles?
I would say this, yes, because he made Gasol get tough. Like Gasol was soft as baby shit, and he made him tough. So like,
when you say
Gasol. Yeah. So yes, Kobe did do that, but to that point, I would make the argument that Michael was better at doing that than Kobe was. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? If Michael's at a 10 for that, Kobe's at like an 8. No pun intended. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like that's all.
Well, I'll go to that argument, but also you just brought the biggest thing I'll go off of is how Winston. I'll use Winston's analogy. Well, not even an example. Kobe Bryant and Paul Gasol, right?
Yeah.
But then you look at Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant allowed you to see John Paxson for who he is. Will Perdue made Tony Kukoc the best sixth man in the league. Yeah. We knew what Dennis Rodman was, but then he put Dennis Rodman on a bigger display for there. Remember, Dennis would be like, I'll come and get 20 rebounds and don't score nothing. I don't care. It's in general, they both would elevate the team, but I think Michael would inspire more players. Mm-hmm. I think there was like you always had role players with the Lakers. Everybody knows Robert Horry because Robert Horry was doing what he did. It just Robert Horry hit that 3 at the win, and now we really pay attention to Robert Horry's career. But there were people that were coming in, and you were like, who? And Michael Jordan, in a sense, groomed and helped develop them to being the players that they became. And even the players that like B.J. Armstrong.
I agree and disagree in the sense that I think that there's the main components. I think the Horace Grants, the Pippins. But even Horace, then you think about why was he so terrible down in Orlando after he left? You had to be like, did Michael really make him better, or was he too afraid to not fuck up? As far as like Pippen, I'll give him that. But like, look how fast Michael was ready to turn on that motherfucker just for having a migraine. Like I look like he didn't make Kukoc. Like if anything, like it brought something out of him.
I'm not saying he made Kukoc, but I'm not saying he made Tony Kukoc. We knew there was always talk before. The reason why Krause was bringing him in was because he was a monster overseas. Right, there was no doubt about that. But with him being on Tony, you would see in the practices him going, Tony, look,
Woo walk the bam. You know, we saw that several times. And to do that again, Tony Kukoc became a role player as the sixth man. That everybody for years he was winning. Six man, Tony Kukoc, because he understood the role he played and became better at it. And again, to go back to Horace Grant, there is a mentality like, all right, I am playing with the greatest player in the world, and we are the world champions. But I also go down to Orlando, and I have to basically rebuild a team. I'm not the star level. I have a championship. I got rings, yes, but I can't put this all on my back like a Jordan could or a Kobe coming in can.
But I'm saying that Horace wasn't putting up like big numbers. Like it literally was because he was a part of that system, and Jordan kind of brought.
Well, and that's why Horace was pissed, because Horace thought he was the kind of player that should be respected, like he was putting up those numbers, but he wasn't. And I kind of side with Jordan and Pippen there, and BJ. Well, BJ lesser extent, thinking that Horace was the one that was selling people out with some of his comments to Sam Smith. I wonder. Oh, have we lost Winston again? Oh, okay.
Of course we did.
All right, let me drop him down for a second. When he comes back, I'll put him back up again. Is he back up? Are you back up now? All right, cool, good to go. All right, anyway, we've talked about this to death. Let's move on to some other stories here. Thank you all so much. It's always fun to talk to you two about this stuff. You two are crazy. I love it. And we're going to move on to our next. And please don't forget, send in your Streamlabs, send in your super chats. Please let us know what you think about the show. Let us know what you want us to discuss, comments and things of that here on to the show. And I'm glad the argument has finally settled down, for God's sakes. All right, let's move on to one thing I really want to discuss, much to, I would say, maybe Winston's chagrin. Is that what you would say with this situation here? Let's talk about it. His name is Andy Dalton. That's right. Andy Dalton has come over to the Dallas Cowboys. He signed a 1-year deal here. It's the quarterback's deal is a base value of $3 million, but it could be worth up to $7 million. This is per ESPN's Adam Schefter. Don't forget, this is essentially Andy Dalton coming home. He played for TCU in Fort Worth, Texas. His family is in Texas as well. So with an uncertain offseason, maybe he made this decision so he could stay closer to home. But he is going to back up Dak Prescott. Of course, Dak Prescott's still waiting to get paid this for the season. So, Winston, you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. Do you like this move, A, as a backup? Because I think you got rid of your backup, Cooper Reese, or whatever his name is. You waived him right after you signed Dalton. But do you like this idea of having him here? This is a former Pro Bowler. He certainly could do some spot work if Dak ever gets hurt or goes down, or you guys are up by 6 touchdowns or something. Do you like this move?
It's an incredible move. I think that's like, you look at some of the other people that were options. I mean, if you could have gotten a hold of them, but they would have wanted long-term deals, then sure. But like,
what's he really saying, Jay? What do you think he's saying?
I cut out.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's a great move. I think that like you have people. If you look at some of the other options, for example, Cam Newton says he refuses to be a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
So if he's not going to play ball, then whatever. And like some of the other options, maybe like a Teddy Bridgewater, got paid to go be a starter and got like money. So it's based off of what is out there. I love this move. And on top of the fact that like, I would say this, if for some reason Dak can't work it, we can't work this shit out with Dak, I'm not looking at Andy Dalton to be a long-term solution.
Right.
If I got to tie him over for another year until we can grab another quarterback in a draft later on, fine. You know what I'm saying? He's being paid to be a backup. Now, if, for example, you were Jay and your quarterback was Mitchell Trubisky, and you brought in Andy Dalton, and now you're making a quarterback like competition, that would be terrifying. But the thing is, Dak is good. He'll get his money one way or the other. And if for some reason he doesn't, we have a Band-Aid to hold us over until we get to where we're going.
Yeah, you take a look at his stats here, Jay. I know we'll get to the Trubisky side of this thing as well. In 9 seasons with the Bengals, Dalton had a 70-61-2 record, including winning twice last year when he stepped back in to be the starter for the Bengals here. He helped them reach the postseason in each of his first 5 seasons, but he was unable to win a playoff game. He holds the franchise record for touchdown passes with 204 and is second in passing yards at 31,594 yards. He was benched after an 8-0 start to the season last year. So, I mean, this is not a bad guy to have backing up Dak. And here's the thing. He's only 32 years old. He's not like 35 or 37. So talk to me. Jay, talk to me. Comments.
Well, I see this as a pretty decent move for Dallas.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I feel like that Jerry Jones is really like, okay, I got somebody behind Dak. But also I really feel like because they had to, you have to get somebody with some experience.
Yeah.
Somebody you can really depend on. Also, can you mute Winston, please? Because it hurts. Can you mute it, please? Because I don't want to discuss it with him. Here's the thing.
And I'm sorry. Yeah.
You really picked up Andy Dalton in case Dak be on that bullshit come July. And you don't want that franchise tag. But it's still a good choice in retrospect compared to other choices that have been made around the league. And I hope we don't have to talk about this in the next subject. I want us to go past this. Pray my strength to the Lord. Listen, Winston, I hope that you and the Dallas Cowboys can achieve all that God has for you. And as far as you and the Redskins, Roka, may the Lord shine a light on y'all path, okay?
We're going 12-4, man. I don't know what you're talking about. Listen, here's the deal with the Cowboys. I also think this is an interesting move for them. But look, like I said, Andy's only 32. And how much would you want to give to a team that constantly underperforms for you in the playoffs? Andy doesn't necessarily have a terrible record, terrible stats in the playoffs. The team wasn't able to win those games. So you have to put the blame on Andy to a degree, but it wasn't like everybody else was playing stellar and Andy was the one stinking up the joint, throwing 6 interceptions or something like that. So maybe he slides into this position, and it's a good position to have. God forbid anything happens to Dak, you have a competent NFL Pro Bowl quarterback who's still only in his early 30s to fall back on, and Mike McCarthy may have a good playbook that works better for Andy Dalton than any crap Marvin Lewis came up with or any of his other guys like Jay Gruden came up with. Maybe there's something more here for him to work with, and he could be reborn. We saw Kurt Warner be reborn in Arizona after people thought he was done with the Rams. We've seen quarterbacks get reborn all the time. Peyton coming back with the Broncos and winning a title. So anything is possible, in my opinion, here with this situation. It's a smart for only $3 million. It's a smart move.
And since it's a cheap, smart move, real quick before it goes away, you see right above that super chat how Jay is described.
Is there another one down here?
There's a super chat that says,
here we go.
So right up, yep. Instead of the bad timing, bro.
Wow, that's a good shot. That's a good shot.
I mean, it's a cheap move. And that's literally what you're trying to do. You're trying to put together the best possible team you can, which means that just like when people are like, here's $10, put together your best 5-person squad. Yeah. If you spend, $8 on 2 players, you got to figure out how to get 3 players out of $2. Yeah. How the fuck you gonna do it? But you better figure it out.
Making $1 out of 15 cents a time and a nickel.
Baseball or some shit right now, please.
Well, we got this breaking news here. The Bears have signed a new tight end to replace their kicker. Sorry, Jay, had to. There we go. So another tight end has been signed by the Bears to replace their kickers. You know what's sad though? I was reading yesterday on the NFL or one of those places like that one of their 1 year older tight ends who's like 60 years old, so he passed away. So it's tight ends are a big deal in Chicago. Apparently, I didn't know that. They revere them crazy. We do have this super chat from Alec Miller J. He says, "Who do you guys want to see win the money in the bank?" A lot of people cheering for MVP of all people. Wow, who do you want to see win the money in the bank? Is he back on the WWE MVP?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. They brought him back at the Royal Rumble. He's now a producer, but he also does stuff in ring every now and then. He should those easy cushion job, which is which is the best thing for him.
He should stop wearing the tight clothes. Anyway, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
He always dresses like a Power Ranger. I still, for the women, I want Vince McMahon to make the whole WWE universe.
All right. I like Sean's here with the first pick in the 2020. It's like any tight end from any university. Boom. All right. I'm done. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry, Jake. So you think for the women's side, who do you think?
I just want to see Nia Jax win.
You're crazy.
But it's going to be Shayna Baszler. It's going to be Shayna Baszler.
It's time for her to win. I agree.
This way you can set up her winning the title, or if you're going to do the Ronda Rousey thing eventually. Mm-hmm.
If you do the men, I have zero idea who the hell is in it. The dudes, to be quite honest, I have zero idea what the dude. Like, all I know is like Dolph Ziggler and Otis are in it, and then Apollo Crew. It's about 8 motherfuckers you normally wouldn't watch on TV in the Money in the Bank match for the dudes.
It's true.
But,
it's true.
And I get it. I get why, because you can't. A lot of your talent doesn't want to work under the conditions. But pretty soon, like Roman Reigns will be the only person still able to hold out because he has a condition.
Yeah. Rob Gronkowski could win this thing. Here's my pick. I think Edge wins the.
I definitely think he does. Oh, he's in it.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm guessing they have to put him in it. It's Edge.
If he doesn't win it, depending on what happens with the Bray and Braun match, if it's Bray Wyatt versus Braun Strowman, if it's Bray Wyatt, then Braun wins. If it's the Fiend, then it'll somehow go where it's a no contest.
Right.
If it's the Fiend will win the briefcase.
Okay. Cody says Aleister Black. We shall see. We'll see if guys.
Yeah, we've been hoping on something for Aleister Black for years right now. The best thing Aleister Black got going for him is he's married to Zelina Vega.
That's true. Oh my God, Zelina snatched the hair right off of Lana on Twitter. Did you see that? Zelina snatched the wig right off of Lana on Twitter. Whoa. Ooh. I had no idea this was a thing. That was a big deal. I don't know if I can find it real quick, but it's very fun. I mean, I love a little drama. Lord knows I never shy away from a little drama.
Well, Thea ain't nothing to play with. Like, I got much love between both Thea and CJ. That's Zelina and Lana. But Thea go hard at you, and you got to be like,
Dude, don't mess with a Latina. I'm telling you, don't mess with a Latina. They will tear you to pieces. But she had said something about, Lana said something about the way she was dressed in Gucci or whatever, and Zelina went all up in her stuff and snatched the wig right off her head. It was ruthless. Speaking of ruthless, well, Mitchell Trubisky. Let's talk about that next. That's our next thing. We got to jump into our next story. As if Jay hasn't taken enough torture today. Let's jump into a little Mitchell Trubisky action. That's right, the man over there, the Bears, the Chicago Bears. In a moment of lucidity, the Mitchell Trubisky, the Bears have declined the 5th-year option on quarterback Mitchell Trubisky for the 2021 season. This is according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. This happened on Saturday. Now, listen, Trubisky he finished last season 28th in total QBR, 27th in touchdown passes, 21st in passing yards. Pretty bad. He's going to be earning $4.423 million in 2020, 9.237 against the salary cap. But Ryan Pace said that Trubisky and Foles will compete for the starting job. We've increased competition in a critical position, and we talked to both players. And the way we view it is this is an open competition. All right, so remember that Chicago picked Trubisky over Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, and he's coming off an injury. So you look at the situation here, Jay, for Mitchell Trubisky. I mean, is this pretty much indication that he's done here in Chicago? They didn't pick up his 5th-year option. Oh, wow. Okay, this is going to be a long one. All right. Yes? Yes.
I don't.
Oh, I like this one. This is a good one.
I feel
like
the competition is literally between which type of garbage bag are you going to choose.
Wow.
Are you going to do a hefty bag, or are you going to do the bag that just has a little bit more, a little bit more durability? Just a little bit more.
I don't mean to mess up your monologue, but look up.
It's terrible. It's terrible. I'm sorry. It's terrible.
I feel like I believe that it's at the point right now where you have to have what you like to call a come to Jesus moment, and we've come to Jesus several times, and I feel like we need to burn something on the altar, because there's no way you need to tell anybody that you are competing against Mitchell Trubisky for a starter spot. Why in God's name are you saying Nick Foles, a man who has a Super Bowl ring, has to compete against Mitchell? Shut the fuck up! Against Mitchell Trubisky. We declined his 5th-year option. Decline the life support that is the contract of Mitchell Trubisky, because it is.
That's strong, Jay. That is strong.
I was just going to tell you, he doesn't have a Super Bowl ring. He has a Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, not just the ring. He has the MVP.
He has the MVP as
He
well.
has to compete for a starting position against Mitchell Trubisky, the man who was picked over both Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes, the man who wasn't even the best player in North Carolina, the man who, when he gets touched by a breeze, knocks down to his knees, the man who throws a pass all the way to the left and it's actually 4 receivers on the right, Mitchell Trubisky competing for a star. What type of lace cocaine have y'all been taking? Why would you think this is a good? You could have took that little redhead fucker that just went to Dallas. I don't care what's on the screen. I'm not looking down. I don't want to do it.
Hey, taking these mediocre ass white quarterbacks. You done had McCown. You done had what the other one that was listed, Grossman. You done had goddamn, what's his name? Jake Cutler. You just love taking your mediocre ass white dude quarterbacks. You could have had 2 bad bitches, mad committal. They would have taken Steve to a Super Bowl just a little, and instead you went with Mitchell Trubisky. And here's where you lay. And this is what's left. So I
really believe that this is just anger from the world, from Chicago being shit as a city. Like, this is just the world being like, fuck your hopes and dreams and a Super Bowl. This is just the world decide to say, no, Mitchell Trubisky is the white pope. Like, Mitchell Trubisky is the white promise. He is the promise of a better tomorrow. If that tomorrow is failure, if that hope is die, if that prayer is prayer for suicide, Mitchell Trubisky ain't getting us nowhere.
We got a donate. We got a super chat here from Michael T. Says, I look at Dallas making a similar move as Cleveland bringing in Case Keenum. They are good backup quarterbacks that have been to the playoffs as starters and can help their team's current starters see the game better. I don't know if anyone needs to, tell Dak how to see the game better, but you never know. Any little bit helps to get you over the hump.
I mean, Dak has been known to have his nobody touched him fumbles, and that is not something that Andy Dalton has suffered from. So if you can help him, because I will give Andy this, he's actually been a very, very good pocket quarterback.
Yep.
So if he can open up Dak's eyes a little bit, I mean, that you really could put him over the top.
I just feel like there's a real possibility that Andy is reborn in Dallas. There's a real possibility. Oh,
anybody can be reborn in Dallas. Like, go to Dallas and J.R. Ewing made Dallas popular. That's an old reference.
They picked him over Lamar Jackson too. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they picked over Lamar Jackson.
He literally passed over every black quarterback that could have taken y'all to the promised land, bruh. Everyone.
Say, well, the Bears did get a black quarterback. They got Cordell Stewart. Your mama got Cordell Stewart.
Whoa. Now we've gone too far. Whoa. All right, let's move on to our next thing.
It don't make no sense.
The only thing that would make me happy is if Mitchell Trubisky, if he left and actually became a superstar quarterback.
Oh, my God.
And then he went to another team. It's so bad it froze Jay. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, if he went to if Stafford left and he went to Detroit and led Detroit to the division title and the Super Bowl. Holy macaroni. Wouldn't that be something? All right, move on to the next thing, and that's the NBA. Let's go back to the NBA. This is current conversation, not the 97-98 Bulls, but current NBA. The Board of Governors met on Friday, and they voted to postpone 2 May events set for Chicago, the draft lottery and the draft combine. They haven't voted yet to delay the NBA draft on June 25th. Who knows? Maybe
combines in the city no more because we still stuck with Mitchell Trubisky and Nick.
I thought we moved. Okay.
Please over the basketball. You said how bad this shit is?
Yo, maybe Adam's okay.
Never pass this with him. And also, you want to know the real reason why Thanos decided to blink out half the universe? He was a Bears fan. That's why.
I heard he was a Jets fan. Same difference. The ownership is the support is growing amongst the ownership for the idea of delaying the start of the season until December. That's what and this is per ESPN. A lot of sources telling ESPN, they said if you start in December, that doesn't mean the people are coming back in December, but maybe they're back by March. And that means in terms of the people coming to the stands, coming to see the game. So they may resume in December. I mean, they start the season in in December, but if the season resumes and is completed sometime in September, even October, then you've got to delay the season, obviously. And it must be weird because you win the title. If you win the title, you have to turn around and defend it like 2 months later. So you don't be surprised if you'll see physical injuries on these NBA players starting so quickly without that extra time after they finish a season. It isn't the same thing as taking time in the middle of the season, taking time after the season to recover and to heal. That's really important. And this is real. I want to get you guys' thoughts on this as well. The NBA issued a memo Thursday night advising teams not to arrange coronavirus tests for asymptomatic players and staff. The memo states that's, quote, for the time being, it is not appropriate in the current public health environment to regularly test all players and staff for the coronavirus. And this comes on the heels and in March when the Nets were tested and people were upset that they got tests before before the other teams. No, hell no, F no. But you look at this. I wonder about this, to be honest with you, because I know I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but I know that regular people should get the test. Absolutely. But look, these are players that are making millions of dollars. A lot of us want to be entertained. We want sports to come back. Part of sports coming back is to make sure testing is very effective and available to every member of the staff, because one assistant trainer could have this, not be tested because he's asymptomatic or she's asymptomatic, and spread it on to the players. And all you need is 2 players getting this again, and the whole season is crashed. And that leads to a lot of economic windfall all across the board in a negative way for a lot of people. So to me, this idea, the the kindergarten teacher isn't getting tested, that $1 million player shouldn't be tested, or that staff member should. I don't think that's correct, actually, because people are paying more attention to that. So that needs to have a little more, in my mind, a little more status. And maybe people are mad at me saying this. I just believe that that's not a negative. What do you guys think?
I agree with you.
I wholeheartedly agree.
I never had a, see, here's my thing. I never had a problem with that with athletes. I maybe have a little bit of as celebrities. If you want to go off of a standpoint of like, I understand why they tested Tom Hanks, because they found out somebody on the set had corona.
Right.
So you test Tom Hanks because you go, this is in this vicinity. And again, that movie doesn't move without Tom Hanks. So you do that because of that. If you're just some random celebrity that's not working right now, and you're just like, I got tested and I'm positive, that pisses me off a little bit. But the athletes, they were working. Yeah. So, and if the whole point of this is, how dangerous it is because they're one of the few that travel all the time. Yeah. And like you said, your business does not function if you do not have the players available.
Yeah.
I don't see a problem with that. I understand.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think, Jay? The testing, is that an issue for you?
No, I think they should be tested because, of course, we're there. I've said this here before. I said it on Twitter and everything else. There's 4 phases that are going to happen. Sports are going to come back.
Yeah.
And first off, it's going to be played in empty stadiums, arenas, whatever you want to look at.
Yeah.
Basketball can be the first. You need to have the players, the essential personnel with the teams and whatnot. You need to have them all tested. It just happens to happen. Then secondly, you bring in those high value ticket owners, people who have the courtside seats, majority and minority owners. Those become the second wave of fans. People who own the suites and the boxes, no matter what sport we're talking about. Then you do those season ticket holders who are a little bit less value but they're not as high as the minority majority owners. Then you bring in the rest. We want sports to come back. Everybody wants this. And I know people keep saying better safe than sorry. But do you understand, if we allow sports to keep staying away and allow it just to look dull, and we keep having to look at flashbacks and memories of what was, you do have a lot of players who are ready to get back to work. You have those players who test me. If I'm positive, I won't play. That's how as easy as it's going to be. If they're positive, they just won't play. If they're a member of the staff and they're positive, they just won't be there. I think you should allow them to be tested. And I understand, like you said, we cannot compare this to the teacher or anybody else. Yes, and I agree with Winston. If you're a celebrity that ain't doing shit and you got to test, tell me, for instance, what the fuck was Idris Elba doing that he deserved to be tested? I love Idris as an actor, but what exactly was Idris doing at that time that warranted saying, yo, we got to test Idris Elba? Or did he was just like, I need one of those tests?
On set, we don't know, but yes, if you're just a celebrity sitting on your ass,
I'm using that as an example. But it's like, yo, let these guys and the men and women get tested so we can start again. You want a sense of normalcy.
This is the only thing. I think all of us are in this position, and that is we want everything to come back, but we need to have testing. as long as testing is effective and out there and in large numbers, which is a effing crime that it hasn't happened yet, because there certainly is the money to be able to make it happen. It's a crime that hasn't, because everyone wants to get back to normal. We can't get back to normal unless there's testing in large numbers and everybody feels comfortable and safe in every state. But of course, turning it into a political issue from the top down because you're afraid you won't get reelected is a damaging thing to everything across the economy and across the country, irregardless of political affiliation. That's the
and I know people watching this, and I know people watching this right now are literally saying and thinking and maybe even typing, but the case numbers are rising up in states. That's because they're able to be tested now.
Right.
That is not always meaning it's new cases. People have to calm down. I understand the level of concern with all of this. Just people are now getting tested. So confirmed cases are going to go up. Absolutely.
No, of course. But I think the big thing to remember from that too is the fact that for all the people that were skeptics and that were like, this isn't as big of a deal as it is, that just goes to show how widespread it actually is. You know what I'm saying? Like that, it just drives that point further home. I agree with you. Don't panic like all of a sudden it evolved and now it's attacking more people. Like you said, we have more tests so we can see it, but that also lets you know how widespread the shit has been.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, absolutely. But I mean, I absolutely agree. And again, I never want to take away the severity of this, but people will just see things and look at it in the automatic negative light.
Right.
And again, there are reasons you take precautions. If you want sports to come back, no one is saying you as an average ticket buyer has to come into this arena as of yet, because you can't.
Right.
You have the players and the essential team personnel that need to be there, and you take the precautions. You test them. You let them all go through there. Like I said, if they're sick, they don't get into the facility. They're not involved with this. Then you allow that to happen. It's a small level of normalcy, a small level. Do not be upset about that, because again, if everything starts to happen at once, then everybody's going to say it's overwhelming.
Right.
You can't have both.
Yeah. We got to take a time. We take a graduate. And I think that's what has to happen here as we enter everything. I don't know why being safe is all of a sudden seems like a negative thing. And that's the thing that I think was a whole fumble from the beginning. If from the top down, they had been like, well, we got to get on top of this, because if we cure this or we put testing in place for people are going to feel more secure. Instead, ignoring that it exists or thinking it wasn't that big of a deal. And now you're really dealing with the severity of that ignorant approach at the beginning. Now you're just playing a catch up, and you're switching the narratives to save you. People are dying, and that's what matters here, not your political safety, And so it's just frustrating all around. I think everybody wants to go back to work. Everybody wants the thing to go back to normal, but you've got to put things in effect so that testing in effect so that people will be able to go back to normal and play and be safe. I mean, because the second one or two players get this again, we're shutting the league down all over again, and we're starting all the way from scratch, and that's going to be negative financially in even larger ways as we go forward. I mean, they're already estimating that we're losing $12 billion of sports money, and that's before you factor in NASCAR and tennis and golf and all these other sports that have been factored in. That's mind-blowing. So, and speaking of money, let's jump into this next story here. That's the United States women's national team. This was a big deal. Equal pay, they were seeking an equal pay reimbursement here. The U.S. women's national team, they had filed a lawsuit on two grounds. They had felt that the U.S. Soccer Federation violated the Equal Pay Act by paying them less than members of the men's national team, and second, that the Federation discriminated against them under the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This Judge R. Gary Klausner on Friday ruled in favor of U.S. soccer, not U.S. women's soccer team, for a summary judgment with regard to the Equal Pay Act, stating in his decision that the players have not demonstrated a triable issue that women's national team players are paid less than men's national team players. Klausner's ruling was informed by the Federation's contention that women's players were paid more in total and on a per-game basis than their male counterparts. He cited in his ruling the undisputed fact that from 2015 to 2019, the women's national team averaged $220,747 per game in total payments for a total of $24 million, while the men's national team averaged $212,639 per game in total payments, total of $18.5 million. This doesn't include the compensation women's players received from U.S. Soccer to play in the NWSL. So in siding with the plaintiffs at this time, Klausner cited precedent that total compensation alone was insufficient, and a woman could earn more in total but still be paid at a lesser rate and not violate the Equal Pay Act. A lot to unravel here, but this is kind of surprising for someone like me who has followed this case from the beginning and is a massive soccer fan. This has been surprising to see because the U.S. soccer stepped on the, for lack of a better term, kept stepping on the proverbial dicks every time they were doing any motion here to stop this from happening. Carlos Cordero was stepped down because he tried to push this narrative that women are weaker than men, therefore physically weaker than men, therefore they should be paid at the same level as men. It's mind-blowing what they were able to say, and then in the end the judge ruled for them anyway, which was really shocking. Did you guys what do you guys think about this?
Winston, I know you got a lot more.
I mean, here's what was so rough about this is that this entire time, like you said, all of the foot in the mouth or stepping on dicks, as you referred to it. Yeah. I mean, from top to bottom, this looked like a situation where, again, the women were just being completely disrespected and not being paid their due.
Yeah.
I think the rough part about this ruling that I did not understand until I actually read it in this article, they literally made the negotiation for I was under the assumption their CBAs were the same.
Yeah, they're not.
Apparently they're not. Apparently they had started off being offered the same as the men, and they decided, no, we don't want that. We want a base pay for all of our players to be at an XYZ amount. Which would in sense furlough those bonuses, which ultimately that's where the men were making that more per game or more overall than the women technically, was because their bonuses were incentivized. You make the World Cup, you do this, you do that, you're going to get more money. That doesn't play the same for the women because they didn't want that bonus. They wanted the base rate thing in their CBA. That makes this really tough because there is an equal play issue for women, not just in soccer, but in just pay in general. And so this actually is like a painful, shit, because they signed the CBA. I didn't know that. And so this just makes this whole situation really, really fucking rough.
It's a context issue, Winston, as well, because they went for that because they had less guarantees to get paid. They went for it in the context at the time because the two leagues they had tried to start both crashed, and the NWSL now is doing well, but the money is more in Europe, which is why they play on both in Europe and here in the States. I mean, women are making millions playing in Europe soccer and or football if you're European, but here in the States it's hardly that. And so they were worried that if they would lose all their talented players to overseas, and no one would want to play here. So if you give them a base guaranteed salary of $100,000, it keeps them here. Plus, Jill Ellis was the kind of coach who wanted players who were committed to the team and were willing to play in the domestic league and the European league, so she could call them when she wanted to. So that was a little bit of going into the reason they took, because the men's team was always making money. They're always getting paid per game more than women. The thing is, women won more, so it looks like women are making more than men. But the truth is, if the men had made the World Cup this past cycle without crashing out to Trinidad and Tobago, they would have made cumulative more money than the women. And I wonder if the judge would have ruled for the women in this situation. So the U.S. men's crashing out against Trinidad and Tobago cost them, I think, anywhere from $4 to $16 million. That would have definitely swung this thing over the other way. So it's interesting when you base it on the fact that, well, you made more money because you win and the men's team made less because they lose. What's the middle ground here? And they got to figure this thing out, no matter what the judgment is here. Sorry, Jay, go ahead.
Oh, no problem. As a business major, it all comes down to advertisement and marketing.
Yeah.
And now we can advertise and market more with the women's team, which also applies to their CBA. A lot of people forget about these collective bargaining agreements. Again, they came to the table, wanted a base pay because they deserved it. Look, we want to be able to say, hey, we're paying, like you just said, Rocco, we're playing, pay us, boom.
Yeah.
And they thought about the future for the game, but no one expected. It's hard. You can always bet on yourself.
Yeah.
But no one expected the U.S. women's national team to become the phenomenon that they've become. And so that's not configured into the CBA. And so unfortunately, under legal standards, you have to adhere to that. It sucks. And like now it's trying to put an emergency injunction to have it a motion refiled on the CBA to renegotiate it.
Yeah.
And that's probably not going to happen, unfortunately. Yeah. Now, when their next CBA comes around, whenever that is, hopefully it's not a long time, they absolutely can go to the table with saying, look, this is what we did. This is what we're worth now. We've been worth it. Granted, they'll try to ask for the retro pay, which they rightfully deserve.
Yeah, like $36 million. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard. It's because of when these unions, the players in the unions, when they come together, they always come for the best. And of course, for the best consideration for both. You have other sports. When you look at basketball, football, all those, it's because of where are the advertising and marketing dollars coming from the most.
Right.
The men always just naturally had it. Unfortunately, it's just the way it is. They always had that money coming in.
Mm-hmm.
They fell
because
off.
it's a male league. It's like WNBA versus the NBA.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some great athletes.
Always had it.
Yeah, there's some great athletes in WNBA, but they're still building, whereas the NBA has been around for a while. Yeah, go ahead, Winston. Sorry.
Forgive me. Did we get into our last topic last week? I think we cut short about how.
Yeah, we did. The Jill. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, just that too is I think that we were talking about how a lot of those players were saying, why aren't rich women coming back and putting money into the team to make them be where they are, because the WNBA has become that product that can be properly marketed if treated with the proper respect, can pull those dollars.
Yeah,
but you're not having major investors doing that. You know what I'm saying?
And that's the follow up. And thank you for bringing that up, Winston. Carly Lloyd last week, that was going to be our last topic. We ran out of time. But Carly Lloyd last week, she had a 2-hour IG live thing with Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird. And I can't remember who else was on there, but they were all going back and forth about this. And one of the things Carly Lloyd said, and she was answering one of the questions from the fans there who were following along, she said that she's disappointed by the fact that there aren't I'm sorry, not Carly Lloyd. I'm sorry. It was Diana Taurasi. Taurasi was the basketball player.
Yeah, because that's right from New York Liberty.
Exactly right. And so she was upset the fact that women aren't female rich women are not investing in the WNBA, investing in women's soccer leagues, doing these kinds of things to boost up the game. Because you talk about advertising, but you got to have that money to advertise, to get people into the stands. Because right now the NWSL, they have some good games. There are some damn good games. I've watched a few over the last couple of years. There's some good soccer going on in that league with these ladies, because it's all the stars from the Olympic teams. It's all the stars from the World Cup teams. Most of them play in the NWSL. So you get to see quality soccer here in the States from these ladies. The thing is this, I agree with what Taurasi was saying. She's calling these rich ladies out, like Oprah, like Ellen, like all these women, and saying, where is your investment in our league? Don't talk about feminist issues. Don't talk about pushing women and supporting women and being all rah, rah, rah if you're not really going to put your money where your mouth is and invest in these women's leagues and help them get attention, help them, increase the salaries, make up the difference here. You can make a big deal. That's the thing that saved the MLS when Anheuser-Busch, God, I forget the guy's name, when he came in and he took over 9 teams and ran them so that they could stay alive. That's what you need. And I think Taurasi was balls out brilliant for saying that, man, because it's about time that we stop seeing things as just gender one side or another. You got to look at the specificity within the gender about what's happening. And she's calling out her own gender, saying, you rich ladies ain't putting money in here, but you want to talk about how you support women.
But that's the same conversation that, Jay, you can back me up on this, the Black community has as a whole about encouraging Black people to bank Black. To go to Black businesses, Black small businesses, to do that, to reinfuse that money back into your community. Mm-hmm. And that's what Taurasi was calling out, was that community as far as that goes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean,
it sucks because it unfortunately, what it shows at the end of the day is that these financially successful women do not believe in these sports.
Yeah.
They can say all day, it's cool to see little girls play them. It's cool to see little girls aspire to be like role models that aren't the guys. Yeah. It's cool to say it, but when you want to be able to invest in that future that they should have, you don't.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a shame to see that too, because this is, I think this is the route that Taurasi's laying the groundwork, being the kind of the pioneer in this, of calling out wealthy women for not in wealthy business leaders, wealthy women in entertainment for not even wealthy women in sports for not investing into these leagues and bringing. So she's going that route because I bet there have been women who have tried to reach out to these women and been like, hey, please come invest, please come support us, blah, blah, blah. And they've kind of turned it down because their financial managers are like, no, it doesn't make any sense. You're not going to make any money off this. Don't do this. So call them out publicly. I think that's the way to go. And I think we're going to see more more superstar female athletes call out women of means for not supporting their leagues. And I think that's going to be the way they open the door for it happening. And then these women will see it as a PR opportunity, and they'll invest in the league for a little while at least and see what the results may be. We'll see.
That was the question I was hoping to pose to the field, what you were about to say about these women seeing it as an investment opportunity, the PR move. Do you think that maybe you've had a couple of multimillionaires who might have been interested? Mm-hmm. And they may have had not just PR firms, but marketing firms and advertising firms, and even financial advisors show them the profits versus losses.
Right.
And they probably didn't see the overall gain because, again, we're asking a lot of people, and I know it sounds weird to say this, but we're asking people who have an established brand to go into something that most of them would not go into. Now, yes, we'll see a lot of these powerful women celebrities go to the Super Bowl, go to the NBA Finals, to All-Star game, things like that. But you're asking them to invest in something that overall is not talked about. And I hate to say it. And I understand that all goes back to advertising and marketing.
Right.
But you're asking them to invest in the WNBA or invest in, because now we're seeing more commercials for the WNBA, which is a great thing. But women's soccer is one thing we're not. When it comes, like, if it wasn't for that season they just had, where the three of us were on, when we were on Collider Sports talking about this, if it wasn't for that season that they had, we would not be talking about them as a whole. We would be like, yes, they deserve to get paid, but what they did put them on a bigger platform. Right. So my question goes, what happens if they've been looking and it just doesn't seem appealing?
Well, I mean, but it has to come down to the same thing. I mean, every story that we've ever seen about any sort of civil rights and equal anything has come from the fact of, I mean, all three of us, I mean, you being Latino, John, and me and you, Jay, being Black, we've been told you have to work twice as hard as your white counterparts to get half as much.
Absolutely.
Women are told the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. And so this is
true. Absolutely. And to smile and all that jazz. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So despite all of the profit margins that these wealthy women have seen, despite whatever the CBA has been previously, everything else, the women have like beyond a shadow of a doubt shown that they more than deserve way more than this. And now is the time, regardless of the shit, for people to step the fuck up. They should have before, but they have nothing. They have no legs to stand on right now.
Yeah. Well, and they've all the women have said they're going to keep fighting, they're going to appeal this decision because the judge also gave a summary judgment on the AstroTurf situation because U.S. Soccer kept claiming, we had no idea we were going to sell out these games and have to put real grass on these stadiums. Bullshit. They wanted to make as much money as possible by doling out as little money as possible. Mm-hmm. So their back end was more profitable for them. And who cares if you put these female athletes' careers at risk playing on AstroTurf, where you can get it. We've seen it in the NFL. I mean, Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, that used to be where NFL players went to die. Their careers went to die by getting stuck on that AstroTurf, and you have a torn ACL, torn MCL, whatever. So you put your premier American female soccer athletes on fields like this during a tour that you are reaping the profits from, and don't, give them a taste of the pie to a degree that they should be getting a taste of the pie. I think that's the massive mistake here. And look, Biden tweeted out, he said it's a terrible decision. But I'll say this, U.S. Soccer, get your shit together, or else you can go look for funding for the World Cup from someone else if I'm president. That's a strong, strong statement. So you talk about stepping
to the stands, but here's the problem. We're talking about soccer. We're talking about football, which internationally is the biggest sport in the world.
It absolutely is.
Internationally is the biggest sport in the world. Yes. So I understand the sentiment of saying that. I get it.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, and anybody who thinks otherwise is really looking at through a very thin veil.
Yeah.
They will find money for the World Cup for the United States team, no matter what.
I was just going to say, just to piggyback off of that, I saw a comment from Haskell saying that, if you can't get fans to watch it on TV, that's the issue. Well, here's the thing. Again, if you want to make that argument before you had the numbers to prove it, fine. But guess what? The women outperformed the men in their World Cup run than the men did on their little shitty one where I think the best they got was the round of 16. You know what I'm saying? The women have.
Well, they did go to the quarterfinals, but it was way back in the early 2000s. But yes,
right. But the women have proven they are a commodity. People will watch them play because they're fucking good.
Yeah. When you say U.S. soccer, two things come to mind. One, the failure of the men, and B, the success of the women. So
I would even make the argument in the opposite order. You think of how good our women are, and then you think about how bad our men are.
Your men are in comparison. That's a fair point. I don't care if you're a male soccer fan for the United States. Look, I've followed them since the early days, since the shot heard around the world. So I've seen them underperform, and I've lived and died every second of every game they've ever played. But you can't deny the truth about that team. So we'll see what happens. They're going to appeal the situation. He did rule in favor. He did rule that two other things could be triable. So we'll see if that will lead to an overall appeal of this situation. But I think PR-wise, this is a bad black eye on U.S. soccer. They got the summary judgment they wanted, but Cindy Parlow, who was, I think that's her name, has been put in charge of U.S. soccer after Cordero sat down. He's going to have to take a long, hard look at the PR hit of this situation. You don't want to piss off your talented ladies from representing your country. That's not a smart thing to do overall, especially when Budweiser just announced at the end of the World Cup run that they would be investing in the in North America and in the NWSL, which is the American Soccer League here in the States. So there are investors who are going to put money in. Now you've got to get the ball rolling even more so. So we'll see as it all happens, as it all goes down. Certainly keep tabs on this one as it keeps going. All right, we got about 5 minutes, so we should probably wrap up here. Thank you all so much for watching this live episode of Hang Time here on Game Time. I was thinking of NBC show. Game Time here on the Outlaw Nation Network. Always appreciate you taking the time, sending in your comments, sending in your Streamlabs and your Super Chats. Always a blast hearing your thoughts overall about the subjects we tackle here on the show. As we're wrapping up, we're at 82 likes, but 140 all in here. Please swing that cursor button over, hit that like button, get us over 100 likes before we wrap this thing up. Jay, Winston, thank you so much for joining me. Where can they find you and the things you're doing? Let's start with you, Winston, please.
Yeah, you can find me at the Swaggy Blurred, TheSwaggybLurd. That's on all the socials. I'm building my website. That's fun. Quarantine's making me do that. But my Patreon.com/TheSwaggyBlurred as well. You obviously can also find me and Jay Washington over at YouTube.com/BlurdsInTheHood, BLERDSNTHEHOOD. We are live every Tuesday at 2 p.m. So in this exact same frame that you saw, but we're only an hour instead of 2 hours, and we cover everything you need to know from a Blur's perspective, man. I mean, last week, what did we get into? We got into a cat funeral. We talked about we got into dating shows. We went into a lot of stuff, man, and it's always a good time. You can ask anybody that watches us regularly, so please come and join us over there. And other than that, y'all just stay safe. That's the other way you can reach me is by keeping healthy, washing your hands, taking care of your mental health, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. Jay?
Yeah, I don't know why people keep forgetting about washing your damn hands. That was the number one thing they told y'all, and soap is still on every shelf.
Yeah, it
is. You buy soap everywhere. Makes no sense. That's another story. That's something we can talk about on Blurs. But anyway, y'all already know what the deal is. Twitter, Instagram is right down there, Mr. J Washington. I ain't going to spell it for you. My Patreon, the Supervillain Squad, patreon.com. I'm gathering all this information together. There was a bunch of stuff of what should have happened or what could have happened in Avengers Endgame. So it's going to be like a 20-something minute thing, me talking about it on the Patreon. I'm going to do that. The Mad Titan podcast, so I get you caught up on everything happening in the Marvel and DC live action and cinematic universes. You know the drill. Barbershop Talk for Nerds. Bring your ass in the convo. My personal YouTube channel, youtube.com/JAY Washington 80. My review for the series Hollywood on Netflix is up, as well as Black AF, and Winston Marshall and I do a review of Harley Quinn that drops every Friday for every episode. So y'all might want to check. You all really need to check out the recent review him and I just did for episode 5 of Harley Quinn. I promise you, if you needed the best laugh of your entire life, go check that out from beginning to end. It was so dope and such a laughter. The writers of the show, the writers and actual producers have agreed to eventually come on and talk on Blurs in the Hood. So that lets you know something.
All right, we got a couple of Streamlabs that rolled through in here right at the last minute. Let me jump in. Let me answer them real quick. Let's answer them real quick. Tavishka Productions donated. He said, Damon Lillard is an OG that could hang with Jordan. No, I don't think so. What do you guys think? Quickly, yes or no?
Not that he's got that killer instinct, and I understand people do the last shot he did when he won the series. He won that series. That ain't it. Just ain't it.
I don't think so either. I don't think
he's not consistent enough in his game. He hits a lot of those big moments, and we talk about him, but.
Okay. And one last here from Fillmore Pockets, who was bitching me out in the chat that I hadn't read his thing. So I apologize, Fillmore. I didn't see it because we were caught up in the USWMT conversation. He said, nice show, fellas. Can everyone with something to say about the Bears please post their NFL team? Please and thank you. Well, that's a big, tall order to ask, Fillmore. But most people will do. They usually chime in when we're talking NFL. But I know Jay is a Chicago Bears fan. Winston is a Dallas Cowboys fan. I'm a Redskins fan. Haskell is a Jets fan. And I don't know. There's a couple other people in here who are.
Ben Goddard's a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, Ben Goddard is a Cowboys fan. So, those are the things. But maybe next time, Fillmore, I will read it. I will have it out, and I will have people chime in and give their NFL teams. But you can always ask them. You can always ask them, bro. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching this episode of Game Time. Please follow me at The Rocha Says right down there on Twitter and on Instagram. And, of course, subscribe to the channel. Trying to get, we crossed 13,000 subscribers. I think we just crossed 13,100 in our march to 20,000 subscribers for this channel. So thank you all so much for helping that happen. So please subscribe if you haven't yet for all the great content coming down the road. Follow me also on Twitch. I am going to be doing a show on Twitch, for God's sakes. God help us all. It's called Rocha Unfiltered. You think I keep my opinions to myself? Now you just wait. That's going to happen on Twitch. It'll be a live stream as well, where there'll be debates. There'll be angry stuff. There'll be people hanging up on each other, and there'll be laughs, and there'll be tears, and there'll be fun stuff to talk about as well. So it's all going to be there on Rocha Unfiltered. It'll be a lot of fun from there. All right. I think that's it. Love you guys very much. And we will talk to you for a brand new episode next week, live here on the Outlaw Nation channel of Game Time. Take care. Until then, peace.